Okay, I'm back, and so we have been talking about rocks that break. And so in our previous segment, we talked about a joint in which there was no movement, and now we want to talk about a brittle structure in which there is movement, and then that's going to be called a fault. And so there are many different types of faults, and the first one we want to discuss is a normal fault in which the original structure was like this, and then there was some kind of a break in it, and then what happened was that this piece slid down relative to the other piece. Okay, there is some words that I would like for you to know, the foot wall and then the hanging wall. So the foot wall goes back to a time in which miners would be in here looking for ores and things, and they would be putting their feet on the foot wall. Okay, so that would be down here. So this thing here is going to be called the foot wall, and then this part right here, that's where they would hang their lanterns, and so that would be the hanging wall. So you should know those words for an exam. Okay, the next kind is a number of these normal faults is going to cause a Horst and Graben system. So notice that this type of structure is going to be caused whenever you have a force that is stretching the ground. When you stretch it, then this one is going to fall down. If you have so again, here is our surface, and then let's say that you're stretching it so that you have a number of these kinds of faults that are occurring, then what you could end up with is you could have a fault over here and a fault over here. And so this one in the middle is going to drop down. So it's going to slide down to right here. And so this part here that sticks up, so let me get rid of this. This part that sticks up, that's going to be called the Horst. And then this part that falls down, that's going to be called the Graben. And so if you've got a particular area where there's a lot of tension acting on it and it's being pulled apart, you could have a number of these things. So a number of Horsts and Grabens. And so this is very common if you go to the Basin and Range province of the United States. It's a whole series of these Horsts and Grabens. And so the Horsts form the mountains, and then the Grabens form the valleys in between them. Okay, another thing you could have is a reverse fault. But this time, instead of the rocks being pulled apart, the rocks are going to be pushed together. So when the rocks are pushed together, then what's going to happen is instead of one of these things sliding down, it's going to be pushed up. And so that's going to be called a reverse fault. Now, you can have a reverse fault that's so severe that it takes this piece and it puts it on top of that piece. And so when that happens, that's going to be called a thrust fault. And thrust faults rocks can be thrust many kilometers on top of these pre-existing rocks. So thrust faults can be huge. Okay, then you can also have a strike slip fault. And so this is going to occur whenever you have shear forces. So whenever the forces are like this, then that's going to make the rock break like that, and that's going to be called a strike slip fault. And there was one thing I wanted you to notice about that is, do you see the little river there? And when the river gets to the fault, do you see how it changes direction and it follows the fault and then it proceeds as normal? So that the original stream, so here's your fault, and the original stream is like this, and then afterwards what's going to happen is you're going to have the stream is going to go like this, and then it's going to go like that, and then it's going to go like this. So based on this, you can figure out which way did the fault have to move in order to offset the river like that. Okay, so we have the dip slip where the rocks are sliding like this, and then you got the strike slip where they're going like this. Well, you can also have oblique slip, and so that's where it's striking and it's dipping at the same time. Okay, let's take a break, and we're going to talk next about what happens when rocks bend.